Heka, he who activates the Ka, who is also known by the name Haiki. This is an ancient Kemetic or Egyptian neter who was associated primarily with magic and medicine. He was a member of the Triad of Latopolis, which consisted of himself along with the moon god Khnum and Neith, who was a mother and war personification. He was symbolized by the sidelock, the Hemhem crown, the ankh, the flail, and the scepter. His cult center was in Hermopolis in the Nile delta lands of Lower Egypt. As being seen as a neter associated with magic and medicine, he was in fact seen as the personification of the divine magic that the ancient Kemites believed produced the sun and ultimately life itself. He was associated not only with medicine but also healing, and more importantly the power of the written and spoken words. The priests of this neter evoked his magical powers when they practiced their arts and called themselves the Priests of Heka. And ancient Kemetic temples included a type of hospital where these priests practiced their form of medicine and magic combined. His role is significant because of what he plays in terms of creation. Per the Kemetic beliefs, at the beginning of time, the god Atum emerged from the swirling waters of chaos to stand on the first dry land, the primordial Benben, and began the act of creation. The universe itself was created and given form by magical means, and magic sustains both the visible and invisible world. Because of this, Heka is believed to have been present at the very start of creation, and was in fact the generative power that Atum drew upon in order to create life. In inscriptions attributed to Heka in the coffin text, he is noted for saying, "To me belonged the universe before you gods came into being. You have come afterwards because I am Heka," meaning I am magic. He was linked specifically to the creative aspects of the heart and the tongue. The heart was considered to be the seat of one's individual personality, thought, and feelings, while the tongue gave expression to these aspects. While Saya was the personification of the heart, Hu was the personification of the tongue, and Heka was the power that infused the two together. For an ancient deity, he was often depicted as a very young, beautiful, and healthy child, and was illustrated in most times with their fingers pointing to their mouths in somewhat of a suckling fashion. Because of this depiction, he was seen in some mythologies as the child of both Khnum and Neith because of the triad that they formed, and triads were typically built upon family structures. But this was one of the most ancient deities or personifications in the Kemetic world, as magic was considered present at the birth of creation and was in fact the operative force in creation. And thus that secures his place as one of the oldest neters of Kemet or Egypt. He was recognized as early as the pre-dynastic period in Kemet from approximately 6,000 to 3150 before Common Era, and also appearing in inscriptions in the early dynastic period, which began from 3150 to approximately 2613 BCE. He was frequently seen in funerary texts and inscriptions guiding the soul of the deceased to the afterlife, and is mentioned heavily in medical texts and spells. The pyramid text and coffin text both claim Heka as their author, and again, him being the god whose power makes the text true. He was honored throughout Egypt's history from the earliest times all the way through the Ptolemaic dynasty and into what we would call Roman Egypt. There is a statue for him in the temple of the city of Esna, where his name is inscribed on the walls. He was regularly invoked for the harvest, and his statue was taken out and carried to the fields to ensure both fertility and a bountiful harvest. Though he is not given the accolades in modern times that a being of his power and magnitude would represent, he is still noted for being not only a thriving but the primary force in creation, wielded by Atum when he gave life to creation itself and brought about the world that we know. He remains a hidden force, manipulated and used by all the deities and netters in their various personifications. When they call upon the powers that they use to manipulate the world, when they speak of the power of the spoken word, and when they talk of the power of the written spells, they are referring to Heka, the god who brought the Ka to active, the god who brings truth to words, the god who spoke life into creation.